Are you afraid of vampires? Is a question a girl asked me long ago on a bone-chilling winter night. If I remember correctly, I was standing alone on the sidewalk of this desolate corner of the city. Beaten down Delhi, as the locals call it. The sky was cloaked with clouds and the air was thick with mist. Most daily laborers laid out in streets with booze in hand after a day of hard work. Stray dogs roamed the corners eating whatever the drunks dropped behind them. The young lady moved closer with a bleak red grin. She was wearing a beautiful flowing red dress. Her long pale neck was adorned with stacks of pearl necklaces. On her Victorian bonnet hat was a long black feather. Black as her long shimmering hair. Are you afraid of vampires? She asked again. I was too tired and too poor to care. I believe such a thing doesn't exist, madam, I replied to her. My mind was somewhat mystified by this brave, wealthy-looking woman and her smile. What kind of twisted motive this woman was hiding? She opened up her black leather purse and pulled out a book with a thick black cover. That is one good-looking book, madam. Must be very expensive, I said without a thought. Sleeping on the streets for so many days changes the perspective of a man. This is an occult book of dark arts, demons, and vampire summoning written by the infamous Mad Arab. But why are you telling me all this? I asked. I heard somewhere that you know a thing or two about occult practices, she replied. I wonder where she got this idea. I was a loner, a guy who worked as a daily wage laborer all around the city. I never had an address or made any friends. I looked over her shoulder. There was an antique car parked on the main road. The driver, dressed in a black tuxedo, stood leaning next to it. She handed over that book to me. Necronomicon was written in bold letters on front cover. Obviously, this can't be the real thing, I thought. But then again, everything can be bought with a suitable price. I am sure the wealthy lady had connections. I thought if I read this book in a haunted street such as this one, maybe I can summon a vampire, she said. She obviously was interested in occult arts. Rich housewives who have too much free time and flow of cash and no idea where to spend it. Now wait a minute, who said the street is haunted? I said. I saw the news covering the murders that took place here. Bodies ripped apart, their organs spread in the shape of a pentagram, she replied. I don't think vampires can be summoned, madam, I said. She opened the book and turned some pages. She held the book against my face and pointed at some obscure writings. Here, it says if you read this it will summon a vampire, she said. I looked it over. She mistranslated the word blood elemental with bloodsucker. An honest mistake, I thought. But still, I was amazed by the authenticity of the ancient writings. Can this book truly be a real Necronomicon? The most coveted and forbidden tomb of ancient rituals. But how can she have it? She can't just be any casual person. I suddenly noticed she caught me staring at her big black shimmering eyes. Why you want to summon a vampire anyways? What are you planning to do after that? I asked. Vampires know the secret to eternal youth, she replied. And I need it. Everything and everyone has a price. Name yours, she said. She looked around and said, So what do you think? Are you going to help me or not? Get in my car, she said with a smile. I can make this worth your while if you help me with this. The night was now complete with thick black clouds which covered the half-moon. Even the vagabonds of the streets went away deep into their corners and caves for the coming cold night. Who said I know anything about this? I said. Look at me. I can't even read. I said. I know a person who specializes in occult and he told me to look for a guy like you here, she said. Look for a homeless man, you mean? I scoffed. I think I knew who she was talking about. He was a rich aristocrat who hung out with social elites and looked down upon folks like us. I looked at the writing for a moment and looked back at her. This here says the spell requires free-flowing fresh human blood, I said, pointing towards the writing on the page. I have to discourage her from miscasting this horrific spell. Yes, I know, she said again with her smile, and I was hoping you could help. Then with utmost haste, she pulled out a dagger and stabbed me straight in my stomach. So you can read, she said with a sadistic smile while twisting the dagger inside me. It was plunged deep up to the hilt. The hilt had a huge red bloodstone at the end and the carvings on it looked artsy and cliché. Like some cult leader was trying too hard to make his sacrificial knife look demonic. Honestly, now that I remember it, I was kind of startled by it. And to her amazement, not a single drop of blood came out of me. "Madam," I said, "vampires can't be summoned, they can only be made." I pierced her neck and drank her dry. Obviously, I kept the fancy dagger and I threw her hollow body on the streets for dogs. That night I slept satisfied with the Necronomicon by my side. Does this answer your question?
A week ago my doctor suggested that I should move out of New Delhi until the inflammation of my lungs subsides. It is the most polluted city in the world after all, and living there was killing my lungs. So I moved into a small farmhouse surrounded by trees and acres of farmland just outside the city. The rent was affordable and I could work from home. For us, software developers, writing code from home is the best possible scenario. My new house was miles away from any shop or residence, so I had to drive for an hour even if I had to buy a bottle of whiskey or carton of milk. The bright side was zero traffic on the way and the nights were quiet and peaceful, and of course, the air was clean. I had 2 small rooms, one of which was a bedroom and the other I transformed into my office. One evening after returning from my usual shopping runs, I noticed a low branch of a dead tree that was overhanging my parking spot. The tree had a thick black trunk and branches like an outstretched hand reaching for darkness above. When I had first moved in, it didn't concern me, but now when I looked more closely, one of the branches seemed like it was about to crack and fall down. I parked my car right outside the front gate as there was no other place to park. I knew I had to cut this branch down before it falls on my windshield. So as usual I opened Amazon and ordered an axe. The street that my house had no name and there was no landmark I could use either, so I just filled up the address as best as I could and wrote my phone number, as I was sure they would at least call me before delivery and I could then guide them to my home on phone. At night the cold breeze blew and shook the tree. Cracking and creaking mixed with the sound of blowing wind seemed like the moans of a man who was about to be cut down. I stopped writing the code on my laptop and wondered what went wrong with my life. I liked my office and my job. I liked my coworkers. I even liked my boss. I had an amazing time working late nights with everyone. I even found someone I could fall in love with, and it made my job more blissful. Then came the affair, the guilt, the divorce. Came the depression and other infections that usually accompany him. In the morning I got a message on my phone saying your package was out for delivery and keep your cash ready. I waited all day for a delivery man to call me, but nothing happened. When I was preparing my dinner I received a message saying that my package was delivered. This first confused me, but then I realized that they must have delivered it to the wrong address. I called customer support the next morning and explained my situation, but they told me the package was already received and there was nothing they could do. "It's not my fault that you delivered it to the wrong address," I said. "Sir, are you sure you had put the right address?" the woman on the line asked. "Well, I live in the middle of fucking nowhere, so I am not sure if I was accurate, but I put my phone number there and nobody from delivery called me," I said. "They don't always call, sir," she said. "Fuck," I whispered. "Also, it's showing that your order was on cash on delivery, so the guy who received your package must have paid for it too. You didn't lose any money, so I think you should just place another order," she explained. "I am never ordering anything from you," I said. "Sir, there is no need to be angry," she said in a monotone voice. That really made me angry. "You assholes," my loud shouts were accompanied by louder fits of cough that disrupted the peace of a quiet morning. "If you were here in front of me I would have shown you the meaning of anger, you son of a bitch," I shouted again. I was nearly out of breath. No answer came from another side. "Say something," Say that you have lost my axe, I shouted while wheezing. Say it. Funny, this was my only human interaction besides that shopkeeper of a small shop next town. I think she had hung up on me. I took a couple of deep breaths and wiped the sweat off my face. Then I went out for a walk. Outside, that black branch of that dead tree loomed over my car like a demon stretching his dark hand ready to fall down and destroy my beloved Honda. That branch reminded me of that asshole Amazon delivery guy. I wondered if they hate their job and that's why they behave like this. I could have parked my car over the dirt road outside instead of my approach road, but I thought that would be too far for comfort. What if someone stole its tires, or worse, the whole car? I wondered if someone was mad enough to get the wrong package from Amazon and actually pay for it. I thought it was all a silly excuse and I was sure the delivery guy had lost it. Or in another scenario, what if someone did receive my package, it would have my address and my phone number on it. Maybe he would decide to send it to me or at least call me and ask me to collect it. I slept early at night and cause there was nothing much to do around here. Suddenly my phone lit up in the dark. It was a message from an unknown number. It said, "Your order is out for delivery." It was weird because I knew Amazon never makes deliveries this late at night. Then I heard a sound outside my front door. The sound of someone trying to open it. I tried moving my arm to remove my blanket, but nothing moved. My breath was stuck inside my lungs. There was another loud, thunderous thud on the front door. My eyes were wide open in fright. I opened my mouth and gulped some air and jumped out of my bed. For several long seconds, I just stood there in the dark, sweating frozen sweats, hoping I'll never hear another thump again. I waited long, standing absolutely still beside my bed, trying to hear any movement outside my door. There was no sound. A loud whack shook the door. I stood with both hands pressed against my mouth, choking in my scream. There it was, louder than before. A loud thud followed by a cracking sound. It sounded like maybe the door broke this time. I ran towards the back door. I knew it makes a loud creak. I opened it slowly with a squeaking sound and moved out as silently as I could. Then I ran as far as I could into the fields. I could hear some furious footsteps following me as I ran. I ran until my chest burned into that dark, never-ending field. I ran until my lungs refused to take any more air in. I fell face first into the ground and started coughing loudly. I pressed my hand against my mouth and passed out. When I opened my eyes, it was dawn. I stood up and looked back and saw my house at a distance. I slowly walked bare feet, wearing only pajamas, feeling like the horror of last night was just a dream. Arriving at my approach road, I saw the door was split in half. When I walked closer, I saw an axe, similar to what I had ordered from Amazon, plunged into the windshield of my car. I pulled it out. It was heavy and sharp enough to split my head. Suddenly I heard a rustle coming from inside the house. Gripping the axe tightly with both arms, I walked cautiously through the front door. I peeked into my office room. My laptop and wallet were undisturbed on my table. Then I walked into my bedroom and checked under my bed. There was no one there. On the table beside my bed, the light of my phone flashes. With trembling hands, I opened it and read the new message. "We are delighted to inform you that your order has been delivered. Please rate our services. Thanks for choosing us." It was from the same unknown number. I looked at the axe, admired it for a few seconds, and then placed it underneath my pillow.
Max found himself alone outside luxurious Diplomat Hotel around midnight. From the glass doors he could see the lobby and people inside. The antique wall-hanging lamplights, paintings of movie classics, and artsy furniture looked inviting. Outside there was a large centerpiece water fountain, a marble child holding out a large seashell on his shoulder which was gushing out water dripping with golden light. Max remembered he was sitting there with his date half-hour ago. December cold air didn't bother him as long as he kissed her. And he kissed long and deep, from her lips to her neck, only to stop to stare at her beautiful pale face. The crowd that usually forms major part of scenery outside Diplomat was now gone and the road ahead seemed desolate and lifeless. A distant dim yellow light of street lamp illuminated his path like mouth of a cave that hides various skulls and bones of lost travelers. People of Bareilly city in India usually go to bed early. Even people who dare to roam the streets this late at night seemed to be in a hurry, like they were running from something, a monster perhaps. A beam of light from a taxi shone through the distant dark. "Taxi!" Max shouted, raising his hand like a drowning man crying for help. Taxi went across, passing him with great speed. Max took a glimpse inside and saw the face of the driver. He looked horrified while he drove away. "Stop!" Max shouted again. Nothing. A few days ago 2 murders took place around this place. A rich couple getting out of hotel stuffed with quality food late at night. Max had read stories of crimes like this so many times in the local newspaper. That was the reason police patrol can be seen usually roaming around these parts of the city. He looked around if he could spot red flashing lights or hear a police siren. Nothing. He looked back again to luxurious Diplomat Hotel. Through the glass doors, he saw only darkness. All the lights of the lobby were switched off. Even the fountain centerpiece looked like a large goblin holding a severed head which was gushing out blood. Max thought the way back to home on foot could be an hour walk. He used to go hiking with his wife back in California. Walking a couple of miles was never a problem for him. He pulled out his phone to see the time. The screen was dark as the night. Damn it, he cursed under his breath. His new shimmering smartphone had all the new features except a good battery life. A switched-off smartphone was just as dumb as a brick, he thought. He started walking along the streets with his hands inside his jacket pocket. The night was breathing cold, damp December air. A layer of thick fog has started to creep into atmosphere. After walking for a while, Max noticed a shortcut to the next block. Strange, he thought, I didn't notice this on my way over here. He thought this way might save him some time, so he decided to take it. The street was dimly lit and narrow. The overhanging branches of the trees looked like outstretched claws. There was a sweet smell in the air. The smell of a flower that spreads his scent only in the night. It was beautiful to him how so many creatures only come alive in the night. He quickened his steps. He thought how much he looked forward to this night and how badly it turned against him. How much he had planned for her to make this night special. He had craved her beautiful body for all summer, and now finally in winter he had a chance to conquer her. He remembered how happy he was sitting in front of his date with a birthday cake on the table. The golden light of candles illuminating her fair face, her brown skin, curls of her pink lips, and oh, that smile. He loved her at that moment. Then moments later his wife walked in. "What are you doing here? Who is this girl? Are you fucking her? You son of a bitch. I will kill you." Whole restaurant saw the scene. The entire birthday cake was thrown on his face. Both of them were gone and he was left alone, sitting there on the table meant for 2. He sat there for 10 long minutes before he paid his bill and went to the restroom. He needed this walk. He needed this meditation to contemplate his mistakes. Suddenly he heard a faint sound of distant footsteps. He turned around. Nothing. The path behind him was just as dark as the path in front of him. He could now hear his own heartbeat clear as the sounds of bugs and birds of the night. He turned to his way and started walking again. The sound of cold wind hissed against his ears like a snake about to strike. He again heard the sound of footsteps right behind him. He turned around again. Darkness? Max's walk now tuned into a sprint. He couldn't even see clearly what was in front of him. All he wanted was to get away from that horrible sound of heavy footsteps. They started to get quicker and come closer and closer. Max ran and ran till all his old injuries came alive together. His left knee, his ankle, his elbow tendonitis all started to hurt. Suddenly he hit something head first. He fell to the ground. Max pulled out his phone and pushed the power button, hoping there was some battery life left. The phone screen lit up with a loud and welcoming sound. With the phone light, he saw there was a giant old oak tree right in front of him. His head was throbbing with pain. He pressed his hand to his forehead. There was blood on his fingers. It was dripping from his forehead to his nose, to his chin, and down to his now blood-smeared phone. He noticed there were 2 new text messages. One was from his date of tonight. "You deserve to die," it read. The second one was from his wife. "Go to hell." The sound of footsteps echoed again. He turned around and used the light from the screen to look into the darkness. He saw 2 dark figures standing right behind him. Max's eyes stretched in horror, like seeing a tiger first time in the forest ready to rip you apart, and then the light of the phone died.